This was going to be the first real Cannonball since 1983. The stealthiness of just driving as fast as you want to go and just staying out of the sight of the police is something that was always on my mind. As I started driving, I would always have the latest radar detector, and I would think about just building the ultimate car for Cannonball. So in 2006, the AMS time attack team had gone out and done the One Lap of America. So when the guys came back from One Lap of America, they actually had like an underground application to do a Cannonball run. So it turned out that Brock Yates was thinking about doing another Cannonball. So I immediately applied. I found some drivers. We had the idea that we're going to do it in a diesel van, and we were going to make a giant fuel cell and try to do it without stopping. Really never heard anything more about it. It turns out the event never happened. I stumbled upon this event called the 2904. It was kind of like the 24 Hours of Lemons meets the Cannonball. You had to buy a car, pay for fuel, pay for repairs, tolls, tickets, everything to cross the country for $2,904, which coincidentally is the distance between New York and San Francisco. In 2015, he decided to do the event one last time, and he was doing it from New York to LA, the classic Cannonball route, Red Ball Garage to the Portofino Inn in Redondo Beach. And I just knew I had to do it. Immediately filled out the online application. He responded to me and asked me, "Are you the same Arnie that has the world's fastest hearse, an 18 van, and a Bluesmobile?" And I responded, "Yeah, that's me." He said, "Well, it looks like you're in the right place. You're in." So we built this Crown Vic, painted it black, and the idea was stealth. We wanted to have a car that looked like a police car to hopefully get people out of our way in the left lane. And also, when we blow past people on the road, they don't call the police because, well, they think they just got passed by a police car. So I had a pretty solid car. I was going into it knowing that I was probably going to be the most well-prepared car that the 2904 had ever seen. It had a 55-gallon fuel cell in the trunk that was gravity fed to the factory 19-gallon tank, so I had 74 gallons of gas. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do some aerodynamic modifications, so we made front and rear splitters out of plywood. This car, I was going to go there and blow their minds. But part of this race, the organizer was saying that there was some Cannonball celebrity that was going to show up. And I wondered, well, who could that be? Maybe it was Alex Roy? Was it maybe Ed Bullion, who held the overall Cannonball record? Was it Burt Reynolds? I really didn't know. So it's about 2 weeks before the event. The car is basically fully prepped, and I'm just going to come in here and sweep this thing. I'm going to run the first Cannonball in years, and I'm going to win this thing. And then 2 weeks before the event, it got revealed who the celebrity Cannonball guy was, and that was Ed Bullion. Well, Ed had picked up a 2002 S55 AMG that had 11 previous owners, had twice been salvaged. These cars are super expensive to maintain and repair. Well, brake, suspension, everything that's really expensive was outside of the budget. So, he basically took the rules, dissected them, and built the best car that he possibly could. That's exactly what I thought I had done, but he one-upped me by a lot. So he shows up with this blog post that documents in detail everything that he did, how he painstakingly fixed the ignition switch because if you had to replace it, it was going to put him outside of budget, so he had to take it apart and glue it. And he had this Mercedes technician, like a 30-year veteran of Mercedes that was on his team, who just basically spent 1,000 hours rebuilding this car for no money. And he was within the rules. I was sick to my stomach because I thought for sure that there wasn't a chance that anybody was going to come close to me, and I was just going to sweep this event. So when I arrived, there was Ed Bullion there with his S55 AMG, and to me, Ed is like the biggest celebrity, so I was thinking that he's going to have bodyguards, and he's not going to want to talk to anybody because he's such a celebrity. Turns out he's the nicest, most down-to-earth guy there is. Dave Black, Ed's co-driver from the record run, was there in a 2003 Mercedes CLK 430. They also had another friend of theirs, Dan, who had an Audi A8. They also had another friend, Dave Simpson, with a Lexus SC400. And it really looked like this was going to be the first real Cannonball since 1983. So the cars were set to leave in 30-minute intervals. I know Ed Bullion had the pole position at midnight, and that was the ideal time to leave, so I wanted 12:30. The organizer, the way he decides if there's two people that want the same start time is Indian leg wrestling. Well, you might know what that is. I, at the time, did not know what it was. Indian leg wrestling has a lot to do about leverage, and Dave Black is quite a bit taller than Miles, and, well, we lost the time. So the next available time slot was 3 in the morning, and I knew that was not good because that was going to put me into LA right in rush hour, so I knew I was in trouble. So we left the Red Ball Garage at 2:56 in the morning on Halloween. Turns out that Manhattan is always crazy to get out of, but we did manage to get out of there in 11 minutes. So the Crown Vic did pretty good with getting people out of the way. Sometimes people would sit in the left lane because they're scared of what they think is a police car. So, it was a double-edged sword. Sometimes it worked really well, sometimes it was a hindrance. So we were making good time in Pennsylvania, and we ended up passing the only other 2904 participant of the event in Pennsylvania, another Crown Vic. We were going along the northern route, so most people were actually taking the southern route because, well, it's a little bit shorter and you don't have to deal with the mountains in Colorado, which I didn't think about at the time. And then all of a sudden we got motioned off the road by the police. Apparently they had shut down the road. There was an accident with a fatality, nothing to do with any of our people. So that was our first mishap. That reroute probably cost us about 15 minutes. Through Pennsylvania, the sun started to come up. We're averaging we're pretty much going in the low 100s, 110, 120 miles an hour. We made really good time going through Ohio. And through Indiana, same thing. Illinois, we met with a friend of ours who came out and kind of paced with us for a while, got some video footage from the outside the car. And continued into Iowa. I was getting into the afternoon, and Iowa's probably the worst state for us because apparently if you're in the left lane in Iowa and a police car, or what seems to be a police car, pulls behind you, you just squat in the left lane, and that was a little painful. Got into Nebraska, a little bit of the same, and that's where we made our first driver's change. So Miles had actually driven from Manhattan to Lincoln, Nebraska. So we did the driver's change and filled up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was driving and I was on a mission. I knew I had to raise our average speed, which was about 85 miles an hour, and I really wanted to see it at 90. I really wanted to get to LA before morning traffic on Monday, and I knew that I just had to be on it. 120 miles an hour, just coming up on people. People are getting out of the way because they see what appears to be a police officer in a big hurry, and we were just going for it. So across Nebraska, our average speed was continually rising, 86, 87 miles an hour, and we ran up on some sort of Mercedes, and we passed by him. And that, I think, kind of upset him because I think he was thinking that we were a police officer, and we blew past him, and then he saw the Illinois plates and saw that we weren't an officer. So he decides, well, what do you do when you're angry with somebody on the road? You're going to pass them and you're going to show them. So ends up blowing past us. And we end up having a scout for the next hour or so. We're going 120, 130 miles an hour, and this guy is just going, and I'm just hanging back, just kind of enjoying the ride. And it's time to change drivers and get some fuel. And I think we were at an average speed of about 88 miles an hour at that point, so I had raised it up quite a bit. And we head out from the gas station in Colorado, and this is where things start to get dicey and where I realized that I kind of made a mistake taking the northern route because the mountains in Colorado are brutal. We would be going 90, 95 miles an hour when the car would shift into third gear. We would actually lose speed. Well, we had to keep the average speed up as high as we could, so this wasn't going to work. So we floored the Crown Vic up the mountains in second gear as fast as it would go. I thought for sure we were going to blow the thing up. But we made it through the mountains, no problem. Smelled a little like coolant. I think Utah was probably our fastest state because Utah is a whole lot of nothing. You got an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit, and there ain't nobody in the middle of the night in Utah. So even with a driver change on the side of the road, we ended up with an average speed across Utah of 100 miles an hour. We're at about an 89-mile-an-hour average, which 89 miles an hour average, that's, pretty darn close to Alex Roy's. I think he was at 90 miles an hour average on his time of 31 hours, 4 minutes. Without traffic, we were going to break 32 hours and 7 minutes, which technically is the Cannonball competition record that was set in 1983. Of course, Alex Roy and Ed Bullion had beaten that time, but they had solo runs and they could choose exactly what time they wanted to leave, and it wasn't a competition. So if I could break 32 hours and 7 minutes, I would technically be the Cannonball run record holder as far as an event goes. Descending into California, Miles was back behind the wheel. There's a long descent on I-15 downhill, and we just kept it floored the whole way, and that's where we hit our terminal velocity of 139.9 miles an hour, and that was probably about 5 minutes of wide open throttle downhill. We lost an hour and a half sitting in rush hour, and just to be racing across country as fast as we could, and then to get there just to sit in traffic was just devastating. I wanted to jump out of the car. It was horrible. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to go home because I knew that our chances of winning were gone. Ed had called in at 4 in the morning. He had a time of 32 hours and 5 minutes. He had broken the record by 2 minutes. He now held the Cannonball Run competition record as well, and it didn't look good for us. We ended up getting there at 8:59 in the morning, and we had a time of 33 hours and 3 minutes, which actually is the 6th fastest time of anyone to ever run in a Cannonball Run competition in a $500 ex-police car, ex-taxi cab with 250,000 miles on it. Ed Bullion had come out to congratulate us. And the first thing out of Ed's mouth was, if you would have got your start time, you would have beaten us.
If you like that story, it's time to make one of your own. Extreme Experience puts you in the driver's seat of some of the world's best supercars at over 20 racetracks coast to coast, with no speed limits, no shifting restrictions, and no governors. Head to the link to choose your supercar, find a racetrack near you, and start making a story of your own. Extreme Experience. It's your turn.